If you're watching this, maybe you're feeling it too. That quiet ache after the work ends, the stillness in the mornings, the long afternoons that feel a little too empty. I'm 70 years old now. I've been retired for almost 10 years, and I want to talk to you about something many of us feel, but few of us talk about. Why retirement can make us feel lost, even sad, maybe even deeply alone. But here's the truth. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are just in a new chapter of life. And in this video, I want to share with you 7 real reasons people feel depressed in retirement and how you can avoid them. These are things I've lived through myself. I don't come to you with theory. I come to you with life. Because retirement is not the end of your story. It might just be the beginning of your most meaningful chapter yet. 1. Loss of purpose. When I first retired, I thought it would feel like freedom. I had worked over 40 years, woke up early, answered calls, solved problems, paid bills, gave advice. My days were full. My mind was busy. I was needed. And then, just like that, it all stopped. The emails stopped. The meetings disappeared. No one was waiting on me. No one needed me to show up. At first, I slept in, took long walks, watched the morning news. But slowly, a feeling started to creep in. A strange emptiness I hadn't expected. You see, when we stop working, we don't just lose a paycheck. We lose a part of our identity. For most of my life, I was a provider, a leader, a man with a purpose. And when that purpose vanished, I started to wonder, who am I now? What value do I bring? Why even get out of bed some days? Some people say, just enjoy it. Relax. And sure, it's nice to rest, but rest feels different when you're not tired from something. I wasn't resting. I was drifting. There was a point, maybe 6 months into retirement, when I felt invisible. Like I could walk down the street and no one would notice. My phone barely rang. I started second-guessing myself. Was I just in the way now? Was I just taking up space? I remember sitting in my kitchen one morning, sipping coffee, staring out the window at a group of school kids walking to the bus stop. They were laughing, alive, full of energy. And I remember thinking, I used to feel that. I used to have places to be, people to care for, things to fix, goals to chase. Now, I just had time. And when time isn't filled with meaning, it becomes heavy. But here's what changed everything for me. One afternoon, my daughter asked me to pick up my grandson from the library. While waiting, I walked inside and noticed a bulletin board with a flyer. Volunteers needed for after-school reading program. I stood there for a minute, staring at it. I hadn't set foot in a classroom since my own kids were young. I almost walked away, but something in me whispered, you still have something to give. So I signed up. It was just 2 days a week, 1 hour each time. I sat with kids, helped them sound out words, listened to them read. Nothing fancy. But let me tell you, after a few weeks, something shifted inside me. A little boy named Marcus looked up at me one day and said, "You make reading fun." That one sentence filled something in me I didn't even realize was empty. Purpose doesn't retire. It simply changes shape. You don't need a title or an office or a paycheck to matter. You just need to show up where someone needs you. That could be a classroom, a church, a neighbor's garden, or even just your own living room, calling someone who's lonely. So if you're feeling that hollow space where purpose used to be, don't ignore it. Honor it. It means your soul is still reaching for meaning, and that's a good thing. That means you're still alive, still growing. Ask yourself today, who still needs your wisdom? Because I promise you someone does. 2. Loneliness and isolation. After I retired, the first thing I noticed, besides the quiet mornings, was how much smaller my world became. When I was working, I saw people every day. Even if we weren't close friends, there was always someone to greet, to talk with over lunch, to share a story with in the hallway. I did not realize that those small, everyday conversations were keeping my heart connected to the world. But when work ended, so did most of those connections. Friends I used to see 5 days a week, they disappeared into their own routines. Some moved away. Others just got busy. And I did too at first. But then the calls stopped coming. The invitations grew fewer. The holidays got quieter. The house felt bigger. The days felt longer. I remember one week, this was maybe a year into retirement, I went almost 4 days without speaking to another human being. I had not noticed it right away. It just happened. No one called. I had nowhere I needed to be. The only voice I heard was the news anchor on the television. It was not just quiet. It was empty. That kind of silence, it does something to you. It gets under your skin. It makes you feel invisible, forgotten, unneeded. And the worst part is, it sneaks up on you. Loneliness does not always announce itself. Sometimes it just looks like sleeping in too long, or turning the television up louder than it needs to be, or talking out loud to no one at all, just to hear a voice in the room. I want to be honest with you. This part of retirement is hard. It is the part we do not talk about at family dinners. No one wants to say, "I am lonely." It feels like weakness, even though it is one of the most human feelings in the world. But I also want to tell you something else. It does not have to stay that way. One small decision helped me begin to climb out of that hole. I started what I call Connection Sundays. Every Sunday, I make it a point to call one person, just one, a friend, a cousin, one of my children, even an old coworker I had not spoken to in years. At first, it felt strange, like I was forcing conversation, but over time, those calls became something I looked forward to. So did the people I called, and on Tuesdays, I started inviting my neighbors over for coffee. Nothing fancy, just a pot of coffee, a few chairs, maybe some cookies if I felt like baking. Some weeks, no one came. Other times, 2 or 3 folks showed up. And over time, it became a little tradition. We laughed. We shared memories. Sometimes we sat in silence, and that was good too. Here is what I learned. Connection does not require a crowd. It only needs a moment of courage. It only needs one open door. If you are feeling lonely right now, I want you to know this. You are not the only one. There are thousands, maybe millions of people just like you, sitting at home, wondering if anyone cares, if anyone remembers them, if anyone would notice if they were not here. 3. Health decline and fear. I have always been pretty active. I took pride in my ability to take care of the house, mow the lawn, fix a broken step, carry my own groceries. I liked being strong. I liked being independent. But something starts to change in your body after retirement. And if I am being honest, it was one of the hardest things to accept. At first, it was small. I would forget where I put my keys. My knees would ache after going up the stairs. I started needing a nap in the middle of the afternoon, something I never used to do. Then came the doctor's visits, new medications, a few tests that made me worry more than I let on. One day, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the man looking back at me. Not because I looked so different, but because I felt different. Slower, softer, more fragile than I used to be. And with those changes came a quiet fear. What if something serious is happening inside me and I do not know it yet? What if I become a burden to my children? What if I lose my memory? What if I lose my brr? No one tells you how hard it is to live with that kind of fear. Not every minute, but in the background. It follows you into the grocery store when you forget what you came in for. It sits with you during quiet nights when a new ache shows up in your back. It walks beside you when you see a friend go through something difficult, and you wonder if you are next. At one point, I avoided going to the doctor altogether. I told myself I was fine, but the truth is, I was scared of what I might hear. And that fear, left unchecked, turned into anxiety. Not the kind you can see on the outside, but the kind that keeps you awake at night, staring at the ceiling, imagining worst-case scenarios. Then something happened that shifted my thinking. My neighbor, a kind man named Richard, invited me to join a Tai Chi class at the local senior center. I had never done anything like that before. I laughed when he first asked me. I said, "I am not one for group stretching." But he said, "Come for the peace, not the posture." So I went. I showed up. I stood in the back and followed along the best I could. At first, I felt awkward, out of place. But something about the slow movements, the calm music, and the way everyone seemed to be there for their own reasons, it settled something inside me. I kept going. And I added a morning walk around the block to my routine. Just 20 minutes a day. It did not solve everything, but it gave me a sense of control again. It reminded me that while I cannot stop aging, I can choose how I face it. And eventually, I stopped avoiding the doctor. I made a list of questions and went in prepared. I told the truth about what I was feeling. And you know what? It felt good. Not because everything was perfect, but because I was facing things head on. That gave me peace. Here is what I want you to know. Aging is not a failure. Needing help is not weakness. It is part of being human. The body may slow down, but that does not mean the spirit has to. Your story still matters, even if it looks different than it used to. Take care of yourself, not out of fear, but out of love. Walk a little, stretch a little, laugh a little, talk to your doctor, listen to your body. But more importantly, listen to your heart. It knows what you need, because your health may change, but your worth never will. 4. Financial stress. When I was working, I had a steady paycheck. I could plan, I could save. I knew what was coming in and what was going out. And even though I tried to prepare for retirement, I read the books, I met with the advisor, I followed the rules. It turns out retirement still had financial surprises waiting for me. Let me tell you about one winter that hit me hard. There was a leak in the roof after a heavy storm. At first, I thought it was just a small stain on the ceiling, but by the end of the week, I had water dripping into my hallway. I called a repairman, and the quote nearly knocked the wind out of me. I paid it, of course, because I had to, but it drained most of the emergency savings I had set aside. In that moment, I felt something deeper than just financial stress. I felt powerless. I had always been the provider, the problem solver. But now a simple home repair left me wondering if I could keep up. And I know I am not the only one who feels this way. No one really prepares you for how expensive life can be after retirement. Medical bills start adding up. Prescriptions, tests, dental work. Not all of it covered. Groceries cost more than they used to. A trip to the store feels like a gamble. And when the car breaks down or the water heater fails, it can feel like the world is against you. I used to lie awake at night doing the math in my head. I would count the months, the dollars, the what-ifs. What if something else breaks? What if I need long-term care? What if I outlive my savings? That kind of fear can wear you down. But here is what helped me. First, I faced the numbers. Honestly, I sat down with someone I trusted, a young financial advisor who treated me with respect, not pity. He helped me understand where I stood and how to make the most of what I had. He showed me that adjusting my lifestyle was not failure. It was wisdom. I made changes. I downsized my house, moved into a smaller, simpler place, let go of things I no longer needed. I sold my old car and bought a used hybrid that costs me almost nothing in gas. I canceled a few monthly subscriptions I forgot I was even paying for. At first, I felt ashamed, like I had lost something. But then I realized I had gained freedom. Less stuff, less stress, more room for peace. I also found ways to earn a little on the side. I started writing again. Nothing fancy, just small articles for a local newsletter. It gave me a few extra dollars, and, more importantly, it gave me pride. Let me say this clearly. There is no shame in living simply. There is no weakness in being cautious. Security is not about how much you have. It is about knowing how to live within what you have and finding contentment in it. So if you are worried about money right now, you are not alone, and you are not helpless. You can take steps, small, wise steps, that protect your peace of mind. Ask for help. Make adjustments. Be kind to yourself. You did not work your whole life just to live in fear. You deserve rest. You deserve security. And most of all, you deserve dignity in this stage of life. Sudden lifestyle change. When I was working, my days had structure. I woke up at 6 o'clock every morning. I had a routine. Coffee, the morning paper, out the door. My calendar was full. Meetings, tasks, goals. There was always something I had to do, somewhere I had to be. And then retirement came. At first, it felt like a breath of fresh air. No alarms, no deadlines. I could sleep in, watch television, eat breakfast slowly. I thought, this is the life. But after a few weeks, something strange happened. I started to feel untethered, like I was floating through the day. One moment melted into the next. I would look at the clock and realize it was already late afternoon, and I had not really done anything. That freedom I had been looking forward to, it started to feel more like aimlessness. I began waking up without a reason. I stayed in my robe longer and longer. Meals became random. I lost track of the day of the week, and then came the thoughts, the quiet, nagging ones. Is this it? Is this what the rest of my life will be like? Just passing time? The truth is, we do not talk enough about the shock of losing routine. It is like retiring from life itself. Without structure, even simple things can start to feel overwhelming. You stop planning. You stop moving. You stop reaching. You stop being. But what turned things around for me was something very simple. I made a schedule. Not a strict one. Not like the old work calendar, but just enough to give my day a rhythm. Every morning, I go for a walk, just around the block. I come home, make a real breakfast, and sit down with a book or the paper. In the afternoon, I give myself one small task, maybe organizing a drawer, writing a letter, calling someone. And I schedule my rest, too. I give myself permission to nap or sit outside and watch the birds. It sounds simple, and it is, but it gave me back a sense of purpose. Not in big, dramatic ways, but in the quiet way that makes you feel grounded again. A routine does not make life boring. It makes life livable. It keeps the days from running away from you. It reminds you that you still have power over your time. If you are feeling lost in the long stretch of empty days, you are not alone, and you are not lazy. You are just adjusting to a major life change. It takes time, but it also takes intention. Start small. Pick 2 or 3 things to anchor your day: a walk, a meal, a phone call, a hobby. Over time, it will become a rhythm, and that rhythm will bring peace. You may be retired from your job, but you are not retired from life. Give your days shape, give your time meaning, and you will begin to feel yourself come alive again. 6. Feeling forgotten. I still remember the first time I realized I was no longer at the center of anyone's world. My kids had grown up, moved out, started families of their own. They love me. I know that. But love looks different when life gets busy. They call on birthdays. They visit on holidays. But the rest of the year? It gets quiet. And that's what no one tells you about getting older. It is not always the big losses that hurt the most. It is the slow fading from other people's lives. When I was working, People needed me. When I was raising a family, every day was full of questions, hugs, laughter, noise. There was always someone calling my name. And now? Now there are days I sit in my chair and wonder if anyone even knows what I'm doing with my day. I don't say this to guilt anyone. I understand. Life moves forward. Everyone's got their own schedules, their own worries, their own mess to clean up. But understanding it doesn't make it easier. There's a certain ache that comes with being left out, not on purpose, but by time. You start to feel like a faded photograph, still here, but not always noticed. One day, after not hearing from anyone for over a week, I sat down and wrote a letter to my grandson. I didn't write about the weather or ask him about school. I told him a story about when I was his age, how I used to ride my bike across town to fish by the river, how I'd bring home nothing but stories and mosquito bites, but I'd feel like I had conquered the world. I didn't expect a response, but 2 weeks later, I got a letter back. Handwritten, a full page. He said, "Grandpa, I never knew you liked fishing. Will you teach me sometime?" I cried, not because of the fishing, but because I realized I wasn't forgotten. I had just gone quiet. I had waited for others to reach out when maybe, just maybe, it was my turn to reach out first. So I started writing more letters. Real letters. I shared stories, not advice. I asked questions, not out of obligation, but curiosity. I wanted to stay connected, not by reminding people I existed, but by inviting them back into my world. I also started mentoring a few younger folks from my old workplace, just over coffee once a month. They ask me things I thought no one cared about anymore. How I handled stress, how I stayed married, how I managed failure. They sit and listen, and in those moments, I feel seen again. Here's the truth. You're not forgotten. You might feel invisible. You might feel pushed to the sidelines, but you are still here. You still have value. Sometimes, the world needs a gentle reminder that you are not done yet. And if the phone doesn't ring, make the call. If the mail is empty, write the letter. If no one knocks, open the door first. Your presence is a gift, and someone out there needs what only you can give. 7. Regret and unfulfilled dreams. As I've gotten older, I've found that the quietest voices are sometimes the loudest in your heart. Not the memories of what you did, but the echoes of what you didn't do. For me, it was a book. I always wanted to write one. I don't know if it would have been any good, but it lived inside me for years. Chapters unwritten, ideas left in a drawer. Every time life got busy, I told myself, one day. Another one was Ireland. My mother's family was from there, and I always dreamed of seeing the green hills she talked about. I would look at pictures and think, maybe next year. And then there was my brother. We had a falling out. Nothing dramatic, just years of silence after a disagreement that now feels too small to even remember clearly. I always thought I'd have time to fix it. Retirement brought those memories to the surface, not as sharp pain, but as a slow, aching kind of sadness. Regret has a way of whispering, "It's too late," even when it might not be. But one morning, I sat down and asked myself a hard question. What if I stopped waiting for perfect timing? What if I just started now? Messy, late, but honest. So I took that old story idea and joined a writing group at the library. Every Wednesday we share our work, just a few pages at a time. Most of us are retired. Most of us never published anything, but we show up, and that matters. I also wrote a letter to my brother. I didn't expect a response. I just told the truth. I told him I missed him, that I was sorry, that I was still his brother. I mailed it. Weeks passed. Then one day, I got a short reply. It simply said, "I've missed you too?" And that was enough. As for Ireland, I have not made it yet, but I started a savings jar. I write the name Ireland on it, And every time I drop in a few dollars, I feel like I'm moving forward. Even if I never go, the hope alone keeps me alive inside. Listen, we all carry dreams that got pushed aside. Responsibilities, fear, timing, they all get in the way. But that does not mean the dream is gone. It's still there, waiting. It may need to look different now, smaller, simpler, but it is still yours. Regret will visit all of us, but it doesn't have to stay. You still have time. Maybe not forever, but today. And that is something. So if there's something you have always wanted to do, say, create or fix, start now. Send the letter. Pick up the paintbrush. Learn the song. Book the ticket. Or just take the first step. You're still alive, and that means the story is still being written. Retirement is not the end. It is a return to yourself, to what matters most, to the quiet truths of life. Yes, there are losses. Yes, there are changes. But there is also space for healing, for giving, for growing in new ways. You are not forgotten. You're not too late. You are not finished. You're still here. And that means your story still matters. Start small. One walk, one call, one act of kindness. It is never too late to live with purpose, to love deeply, and to leave something beautiful behind. Keep going. You are not alone.